The commune of Sochocin is located in the northwestern part of Mazovia, in the ice marginal valley of the Vkra river. The tree stand of this region consists mainly of pines, but there are also birches, alders, oaks, spruces and hornbeams here. The Vkra River and its tributaries, Raciążnica, Płonka and Łydynia, are important elements of the scenery. Their ecosystems, channels and diverse bank vegetation determine the nature of the commune and contribute to promoting its farm tourism. The beauty spots on the banks of the Vkra River enchant tourists with the charming scenery and clean forest air, letting them take some rest from big city life. Sochocin is a quiet and peaceful place. It is also unique because Sochocin is where the tradition connected with making buttons from clamshell, a craft that no longer exists, is still cherished. Button making in Sochocin began in the second half of the 19th century, when the dire economic situation the inhabitants found themselves in made them look for a new source of income. They turned to button making, which was developing rapidly in the North Masovian lowlands. The buttons were made from clamshell, which was initially imported and later on fished out of Polish rivers. Every year, from spring until autumn, clamshell fishers sailed their wooden, flat-bottom boats to fish out clams by means of landing nets. In the beginning, the fishers provided the button makers with clamshell without charge or charged them very little sums. Later on, they sold it by weight as a precious raw material. Clamshell had to be graded, cleaned and dried. Depending on the type of clam, the shells varied in size, thickness and coloring. The largest ones had sparkling middles and dark brown outer surfaces. Others had thick brown sides, and the commonest ones had pearly middles and olive green outer surfaces. Button making was not difficult to learn and required little financial outlay, which facilitated its development. Novice button makers knew that in order to make smooth buttons, they had to operate the machines and sharpen the tools properly. Sochocin button makers' workshops were set up in the cottages and farm buildings. The machines which were used, lathes and hole-making machines, were usually imported, while the drilling machines and cleaning drums were made by the button makers themselves.
Przystąpiliśmy do maszyny, która się
This is a drilling machine.
Wycinamy na tej maszynie krążek.
It was used for drilling small circles out of
Takiej
shells.
całej muszli. O tak
These are
wygląda
such
krążek.
shell circles.
Teraz
Now I will start the machine and begin to drill. Holding a shell with a pair of pincers, A button maker drilled grey and yellow circles, which then fell into a small container. It took a lot of strength to drill the circles. Time-consuming and done only by men, the drilling produced a lot of dust. This shell is no longer suitable for drilling, as it is too thin here. You can make 3 nice circles out of such a shell. What remained after shell drilling used to be left on streets and roads to harden their surfaces. Next, the small shell circles were placed in lathes. The purpose was to smooth the edges and surfaces of the circles. I'm putting the shell circles into the lock of this hole-making machine to make holes in them. Shell circles rotated in the lock, and special needles made 2 or 4 holes in them. The smoothed and holed circles were still grey and yellow. In order to decolor them and make them milky white, they were placed into huge glass bottles with some special acid and boiled for over an hour. The whitened buttons were then put into wooden cleaning drums filled with sawdust and wax. After several hours of turning the drum, the buttons were cleaned, smoothed and shiny. Buttons which were ready for sale were placed onto a wooden, stencil-like tool with 144 round hollows. The tool made it easy to count 1 gross, or a dozen of buttons. Buttons made from clamshell had various diameters. The smallest ones were sewed onto shirts, while the biggest ones onto pillows and bedclothes. The polished buttons need to be sewed onto small pieces of cardboard and packed in such packets, each containing 10 grosses. They are ready for sale now. The owners of the button-making workshops used to take the packets in their suitcases to marketplaces in Warsaw, Łódź and Krakow. Sometimes they received orders for exact quantities of buttons from their regular clients by mail. In the 1960s, clamshell button making became unprofitable as button molding machines appeared in the workshops. Electrically powered, they made multicolored plastic buttons in a faster and cheaper way. While clamshell button making declined in the late 1950s, the last workshop manufacturing plastic buttons closed in the early 1980s. Today, what honors this old tradition and Sochocin's button makers is only the exhibits and good memories.